Coaches, we're going to get started. I know coaches are still filing in. I just tweeted out. I'm going to keep sending out links to various places. But we are going to get started. Coach Chris Roberts is the defensive coordinator at Jonathan Alder High School here in Ohio. He's become a good friend of mine over the past years. We text and talk fairly frequently. Coach is going to talk middle of the field coverage and cover 3 variations that they do at JA. Coach, you got about 20, 25 minutes, and then we'll save about 5 for Q&A. So the floor is yours, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody either watching it live or kind of checking in later. Honored to be here, kind of just talking ball with guys. So, like I said, Chris Roberts from Jonathan Alder, defense coordinator there. Kind of topic that I'm kind of talking about is cover 3 and the variations we use off of it. I'm a big believer in cover 3, especially at the high school level. So just keeping the middle of the field closed right away. Here's my background that nobody cares to see, but every coach puts up there. So there it is. But moving on. So kind of get into cover 3 and why we like to be a 1-high defense. So for us, we really believe that it helps us with the run game more than the pass. We see a little bit more run in our conference. So it allows us to get 8 guys into the box a little easier. And it pre-snap takes away the easiest deep ball, which is that post play. Most offensive coordinators, they see that single high safety sitting over top. They just don't call a post because it should be taken away. So right away, we kind of have the mentality of, by being 1 high and cover 3, we know that the middle of the field's kind of taken away and they're not going to call it. So now we know we can really have an emphasis on getting to the sides and hash the sideline is where most of the stuff is going to happen, ideally, right on paper. The other part of that is, because we're taking away the middle of the field, we're inviting the high school quarterback to make that difficult throw to the sideline. It's a little bit more difficult. The ball's in the air a lot longer. So we're kind of inviting it, just kind of baiting them in for it. Go ahead, throw it to the field. If, maybe the boundary doesn't matter. We want you to throw the ball to the side. We expect it to go there. And if it's going to the side, it's in the air a little bit longer. So everybody has a chance to react on that ball. And that's really helped us quite a bit. Just last year, our league that we're in, it's a little more run heavy of a league, but the league average was 8 interceptions. We had 19 interceptions this year, and it's really just the way that we play it. I didn't come up with this, like with most of football. You take stuff from other people, and a lot of what we do defensively, I got from a really good coach that was the defense coordinator when I was an O-line coach at Olentangy Liberty High School here in Central Ohio, and he took that with him, and I got a couple other buddies that now use this kind of system, and it does really good stuff for us. And the kids seem to like it. As we get into it, like we call it cover 3. Some people might look at it, it's kind of almost like a variation of Tampa 2 as well because of the way we play it, which we'll get into here. So how we kind of have our base rules. So kind of building everything off of 2x2. So our base rules, we can keep 6 guys in the box, whether we're a 4-2, because that's what we've been most of the time last 2 years. Whether we're a 4-2, 4-4, however you want to call it, just keep those strong safety hybrid types happy. Sometimes you call them a DB, sometimes you'll call them a linebacker. But it's that 4-2 box. We're kind of pushing to go more of a 3-3, kind of a bastardized 3-3 look, more of a tight front. But either way, it doesn't change really our coverages, because it's only a 6-man box. The other guys on the edge out there those other 5 dudes can do the same thing no matter what we're doing up front. So it kind of keeps it simple for them. And it's a little bit different, especially when we get to our corner play. Starting with the inside out, though, are what we call dogs and bandits. That's our outside linebacker types. We have them playing 4x2 inside, so we call it -2. So they're playing 4x-2 off of number 2. And they're going to get their run read first because, like I told you guys, we're in a run-heavy league. But they're going to be a run read first. They're going to read that in-man on line of scrimmage to a near back and see what's going on there. We want them to be very aggressive in the run game. Our defense, our kind of defensive motto is default aggressive. Big Jocko Willemick fan. And default aggressive, like if we know what we're supposed to be doing, we know our keys, we know our reads, then we can play a lot faster and a lot more of an aggressive mind frame. And it should just naturally happen because we know what we're doing. So those guys kind of get that read, and if they are in the pass, they get a pass read, whatever, high hat from that in middle line of scrimmage. Now their goal is to collision number 2 en route to getting underneath the number 1. We don't use the word flats because what we have found is that when we say flats to a kid, now that kid starts to sit at like 5 yards when you make a deep out or a comeback or something like that. Well, he's not doing anything to defend that when he's at 5 yards. And to him, that's what he thinks flats is. For whatever reason, that seems to be like a common theme in high school athletes' head, that flats is at 5 for whatever reason. So we tell them, you're going to collision number 2. Obviously, people think that when you're running cover 3, that 4 verts is going to hurt you. I would say, yeah, it probably would. I feel like we have our rules kind of help us with that spacing. Like you can't get that seam shot necessarily to the number 2 if we collision that. And that'll also play into what our corners and how they play things as well in a second. But so like I said, they collision number 2, and they're getting underneath of number 1. We kind of cap them off at about 10 yards. Obviously, game plan might dictate maybe we'll cap them off at 12. They don't sink any deeper than that. But that's helped us quite a bit just by telling those 2 guys, get underneath the number 1, not flats. The number 1 might change. If it's 4 verts, yeah, it's truly number 1. If it's a flood concept, for example, well, number 1 might be the guy running that intermediate out route because he's becoming number 1. He's the closest guy to the sideline. So just we rep that a little bit, and the kids understand that number 1 can change based on how those routes develop. So we'll do that to both sides. We really don't. We try and keep a strong side and a backside. Our dog is usually our strong side guy, or we call the bandit. He's our backside guy. Sometimes we'll go field and boundary just based on athletic ability or whatever. So that's those 2 guys. Now our corners, and this is where it gets a little. We feel like it's a little bit different. Our corners are playing a 7 by -1, so they're 7 yards deep, 1 yard inside. And this is where we get really aggressive with our corners, even though they're really cover 3. Their first read is the quarterback. Their eyes are on the cue, and I'll show you guys a couple of clips of this near the end of this presentation. But they're reading the quarterback, then number 2, then number 1. We want to be aggressive in all the things that we do on defense, and so this has allowed us to be aggressive on those short routes. Sometimes you see a guy playing cover 3, and you just throw hitches down the field. And you're giving up the hitch, got it. Well, we don't allow that to happen. Or a slant, whatever that quick concept is. We try not to let that happen. And so our corners know, like, you're kind of playing some short routes if you get the read to. If not, you can get back. So the way we teach that, our corners are looking at the quarterback, and if he drops, I drop. So as I look at the quarterback, he catches that if he's in shotgun, under center, doesn't matter. If he's dropping, now I know I can drop. Or if it's a mesh point, if he's kind of play actioning it, we treat that as a drop as well. So then we'll get depth. If he catches the ball and he tries to take that hand off the balls because it's a quick throw, especially from shotgun, he gets the ball, boom, and he opens up and takes the hand off. He's trying to throw something. That means he's throwing something quick. It's a slant, a hitch, a bubble, whatever it is. If I see quarterback take his hand off of the ball, I am downhill looking for what's that route. And we rep that a lot, so that way they get comfortable with it. But a military guy, I like to use the concept of pull pin on the grenade. If that quarterback takes his hand off the ball, it's like he's pulling the pin on a grenade. He's got to throw it. It's going somewhere. If you pull the pin on a grenade and you don't let go of it, that's going to be a bad day for you. Same concept for a quarterback. Most high school quarterbacks, they pump fake with both hands on, they turn the shoulders. So hand off, we're downhill looking for it. If you get a drop from the quarterback, then our eyes go to number 2. And then we go into the basic kind of cover 3 reads where we're reading 2 to 1. If 2 goes vertical, I'm apexing those 2. And this is where it kind of turns into that Tampa 2 look because the way we're playing our free safety. But we're inviting that sideline throw. Our corner is going to apex 1 and 2 during his drop and then try and split those 2 and get depth. Our free safety We put his toes at 10, and he's reading the quarterback, and he's trying to apex both number twos. But we tell him he's toes at 10, and we say slow to go. We want him to be an extra guy in the box if it is run. He has the ability to get downhill and get in there, but he's slow to get depth. And he can afford to be slow because those corners who are apexing those number twos, as they're doing that, they're almost in like what would end up being like a cover two look because of their alignment. So it allows him to be kind of slow to go and get back, and he can also now be aggressive in the run game. With our inside backers, if we're in this stack look, then now we can play games with those three, our Mike, our Sam, and our Will. They will have a hook curl or a pressure. So they kind of know that typically if I'm going to send the Mike, for example, or Sam and Will, there are hook curl guys. They're looking for a crossing route on their side that they can jam. But if I send either the Sam or the Will, our Mike just automatically knows we build it in. Hey, if I'm sending the Sam, I have to replace him in that coverage. So I get pass read. I know the Sam's gone. I'm going to have to drop a little bit wider because I'm replacing the Sam backer. Same thing for the other side, the Will. We can do some 5-man pressures where whoever that backer is that's left over, now he knows I got that whole middle. I'm not really dropping to a hook curl area. I kind of have the middle by myself because both of the backers are gone. So that's kind of our base way of aligning to a 2x2 look. Just kind of diagramming it here a little bit. Those red triangles around those linebackers, those are the guys that we can play games with. So now we can send different guys from wherever, but they just kind of know how to fix themselves because they know that typically if we're sending 4-man pressure, they got to have the 2 hook curl areas. And like I said, our dog and bandit, they're getting their kind of hop step in their read. Once they get past, they're going to collision number 2 en route to number 1. So one of the rules that we didn't emphasize my first year doing this, we would tell them we were big on collision. We would yell like collision. I'm yelling it all summer. I yell collision all the time. And then our kids would give that collision, but they wouldn't get underneath the number 1. And so we have to really, like the second year of really doing this, had to emphasize that collision happens en route to getting underneath the number 1. If he's not there, if he's running a shallow route or a quick out or something, you might not ever get collision on number 2, and that's okay. His route didn't allow you to. But if as you're taking your read steps and you go to get underneath the number 1, as number 2 is running a vertical, that's where that collision needs to happen. Like I said, we didn't coach it the right way. My first year doing it, and we had kids kind of going way too far into the route and not really getting underneath the number 1. So we did have to work that a little bit. But once we got it down, it worked pretty well for us. Another couple things that we can do with this is instead of collisioning the dog and bandit, if we are outside backers, if we have a team that is just throwing a lot of really quick hitches, we just can't get there for whatever reason, quick outs, things like that, and that flat area becomes a problem for us. We have a call where we can actually send them straight there, no collision. So if we kind of expected the passing down tendencies kind of tell us, hey, they're going to try and attack the quick routes on the edge, then we might call like a fly coverage where instead of collisioning, you're going to turn and run to get underneath the number 1 on the snap. We don't even care about the run game at that point. Tendency tells us they're throwing it. And that's actually helped us quite a bit too. We've got a nice amount of interceptions off of that because they're out there a lot faster than expected because it's a little bit different. It's the only change on that coverage. It's the only 2 guys that change. Nobody else does. And it's just a way of kind of mixing in how to handle those flats areas for us. Again, just diagramming it up. There's no collision or anything here. You can see the dog baiter they're flying out to it right now to get underneath the number 1. And then for our trips check on this, a couple of different ways we can do this. So when we get a trips look, so we don't really change anything because we feel like our rules have already kind of put everything in place for us. So on the trip side, we're still going to play 7 by -1 on number 1 with our corner. Our dog or outside backer on that side is still going to play 4 by -2. He on number 2, he can still do that. We might be able to bump our Sam out or whoever's on that field side. We can bump him a little bit depending on what we decide to do with the backside outside backer, what we call the bandit. We can play some games with him. Sometimes we can have him bump the box and kind of give a 3-4 look in the box now. We'll also be able to drop him into a 2-high look, but we can play games there if we need to. He doesn't have a number 2 to worry about anymore, so he's a little more free to take care of stuff. When we get that, we also now have to tell our Will, and he knows when there's a trips look, he's the one that's going to be looking for that crosser. He's our robber, as we call it, looking for that number 3. A lot of teams you're going to run. I know I came up in an air raid system. So you run your 4 verts concept out of this. He's trying to do the under Sam over Mike. Well, our Will's looking for that because he is a little bit closer to that trips now if we get bumped over. The big thing with this is our backside corner, so our boundary corner typically. His rules don't change. He just now knows that he's going to end up manned up on number 1 because of the way his rules work. He's still going to read the quarterback. He's still going to look for that, and if the quarterback drops, he's going to say, okay, I'm going Q2-1. Quarterback drops, I need to drop and read number 2. If there is no number 2, we don't treat the running back as number 2. Some people will do that. We're talking detached out of the box receivers. There is no number 2. Now I'm just locked onto number 1. And that's rules are already built in that way for him. So he gets Q drop. There is no number 2. Boom, I manned up on number 1, even though it's still just our cover 3 concept because there's nobody else to worry about. So the rules are already built in for that to happen backside. Like I said, we can play games with it a little bit because of that. Only have 1 receiver or outside back on that side. We can do things where we can bracket number 1 if he's one of their dudes. Like I said, we can bump the box here. All kinds of different things we can do. Because he's most likely going to get locked up, that allows us to take our free safety and cheat him to the trip side. And now he can worry about apexing number 2 and number 3 on the trip side. Again, worried about 4 verts. So if we get that 4 verts concept, even though our Will is going to rob it from underneath, our free safety should be able to get in between those 2 and play both of them from his position. He can bump over. In game plan, we try to tell him ghost tight end. So if there's no tight end, he just outside the tackle there to the trip side. But nothing has to change in that. Everybody gets kind of just follow their rules. So we don't have to have a crazy trips check. We get a team that likes to play tempo or whatever. We don't need to do a lot of communication. It's all kind of built in already. Because of that, though, our Sam, we don't feel like we can play games with him. We're not a fans of sending the Sam if there's a trips look because that's a lot of space for the linebackers to have to cover after they worry about run as well. So we don't play games with him, but now we can play games with, like I said, like that backside backer we call our bandit. He can play his regular cover 3 rules and get to underneath the number 1. We can send him and just leave number 1 locked on by the corner. A couple different games we can play with him there. And this is the same thing. It's trips, but here's where we just give it a 2-high look. And we'll do some 2-high stuff just to kind of mix things up. So this is one of the times we like to do that. We'll go a 2-high call, and he's still going to come downhill and take care of getting underneath the number 1 if it's just our base cover 3 call. But now it's a 2-high look. So, as an offensive coordinator, I'm getting a different read from the defense. Is it the same? Is it not? What coverage are you in? Just trying to hide it a little bit with that 2-high kind of look. But like I said, we can play all kinds of games there if we want to. The rules didn't change. Most people don't even like the guys that were on our trip side, our field corner, our outside backer on that side, our Sam, our free, doesn't affect anything that they're doing if we put him in a 2-high look. He can maybe bump that free over a little bit just because he's back there, depending on what he's doing. Sometimes we'll have him play some deeper coverage there to help us if that's a dude. We've played some teams that have just a stud receiver or a quarterback that we know can make that throw. He maybe will go deep in a 2-high look to help with that. We have a kid in our conference who is going to be a senior, and he's really good, committed to Ohio State, like number 6 in the nation. He can throw the ball and put the ball wherever he wants. We maybe will drop that guy to help take away some of that area for that reason. But typically, most high school quarterbacks, they can't make that throw. Because when we're going too high, we don't have as many guys to play with, we feel like. So if he is deep, we're not going to blitz him or anything like that from that depth. So we only have 2 guys to play with, but this is kind of what it looked like. That backside outside backer is now coming from depth. But he's downhill, kind of getting underneath of number one in our base call. And we can come up with other calls where maybe they'll switch roles and the corner will play underneath and that guy will play over top of number one if he's a dude and we want to bracket it that way just to give it a different look. But at base level, everything stays the same there. And then this was our kind of our cloud coverage, so we can go that too high look. We've given them that once already, so now we can play some cloud 3 to this, where we're going to have our corner go ahead and sit. And if we feel like our boundary corner it can lock up number one and do the job and not need any help, then we'll go into some cloud coverage. So our corner knows what we call cloud coverage. He's going to be sitting there. Our free is now going to rotate over. And now that backside, outside backer, hybrid type is going to be our deep middle guy. Because of that, our dog also knows he doesn't have to get underneath the number one anymore in this coverage. He knows he's got help by that corner. Now we can start playing games with him or really the Sam because we got a couple more guys in that underneath area to the field. Kind of what that would diagram like here. So again, we can play games with our field outside backer, which we call dog. We could send him. We can send the Sam. Our Mike can get in the mix there a little bit. But all we're doing is sit in that corner, and he'll look. And pre-snap, it'll look the same as a regular too high look, and it's all still just cover 3.
Coach, you got 5 minutes.
Thank you. So it's still just cover 3. It's 3 deep. We're giving up, and we know in our cloud coverage we're giving up that single receiver side. And if they run a wheel, if they like to run wheels by the running back, that's what the first concern is. What if they run a wheel by the running back? Well, if they like to do that or they have a receiving running back, we might not run that cloud, obviously, as a game plan kind of thing. But we're going to take away what they want to do. And that's one thing I learned when I became a D coordinator. Take away what they want to do and make them get deeper in their playbook. If they do it once in a while, I'm willing to roll the dice. I'm an aggressive kind of guy like that. I'll roll the dice a little bit if that's what I feel tendency calls for. All right, so a couple clips of what this looks like. So in this clip, we're going to see our corner here to the bottom of the screen in the boundary. He's reading the quarterback's eyes, and we're going to get a really good jump on the ball because of it, and which is going to cause him to be able to get a good pick 6 here. So I'm going to play in slow-mo because I know sometimes the video feed comes through kind of funky. He sees that quarterback drop right there. His eyes are on the quarterback. He sees that. Boom, hands off of the ball. Our corner's already breaking downhill. Where is it going? He starts downhill. He sees that it's kind of going to be a speed out of some sort. So he's able to adjust and get that ball for a pick 6. This is all because he's reading the quarterback. We feel like that gives him that extra step to get to that and make a play. And we're not looking for pick 6s. We're looking to get down there and stop that play from getting anything. The pick 6 is just extra in our mind. We're thinking, okay, he can take care of that quote-unquote flats area by doing it, but a little extra for us with the pick 6 there. Here, this is a team that we knew they were throwing the ball a little bit more out of this 2-by-2 formation, especially when they were pistol. It was kind of we felt was a little bit of a tell that it was going to be a pass play. So our safety in the middle of the field, instead of slow to go, we let him get a little depth on these situations. He was a senior who could really see things really well anyways. You see really bad job with our collision here by this strong side backer. He's supposed to be collision and getting underneath the number 1. I don't know what he's doing there. He's spinning like a top. But they did try to run the post by this number 1 receiver to the bottom of the screen. And we have a corner who hadn't played football for a couple of years who should have been over top of this a little bit better. Luckily, our free safety, though, Apex in the 2s, sees that. He's able to make a play on it. Get a good interception for us, taking away that post. We don't think you can run a post against cover 3. Like, we feel like we're confident that our guys will make a play there. So it just leads to a good interception for us right there. Here's another example, fast forward to where it happens, of our free safety still being able to look in the box, but then get depth. We have good corner coverage, so we got a corner over top of this post. Our free safety underneath of it, bracketing him, leads to an interception for us. and just putting our guys in good positions to make this stuff happen. And then another clip here. This we're going to see our linebacker able to get a good read as he's trying to looks for the crosser that's not there. He opens up and he's underneath of that post and able to make something happen for us. Of course, they have to throw this ball underneath because of where our corner is playing this guy. It's just a good spot by our inside backer there, making something happen. Last clip here. This is a team that likes to spread the field a little bit, and we were able to spread our inside backer with it. And you'll see he's able to get here, and a lot of people try to attack this area, the hook current area that number 3 can get to. We feel like our guys can still get out there and make a play, and that's what happens here. He's able to get out there, just touch the ball. And that's all we need. Our turnover circuit kicks in. We get an interception. This was, I think, the second offensive play of the game for them. We're able to get an interception early on. And we just feel like by playing the cover 3 look, it gives our guys the ability to play to the edge and be just more athletic than the other team. So that's how we run our middle of field coverage stuff. Here's my contact info. You can send me an email, hit me up on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. I'm always down to talk ball. So yeah, if there's any questions, we can go into that.
Currently no, but like I got a couple seconds. I think we've had close to like 75 coaches on so far, on and off. But coaches, his stuff's on the screen. Do not hesitate to reach out. Like I said, I'll again, kind of like our last clinic, we will leave this up and then we'll cut it up. So but do not hesitate to ask any of our coaches. Reach out to them. I mean, coaches pretty easy to get hold of unless he's with his kids. Then it's a whole different game. But as most parents, but yeah, no, Coach, I think you did a great job. Like I said, I did like the you kind of okay. You can't stop the hitch. We're just gonna go and push them out and get there. That's a nice little variation. That thankfully you didn't run against.
I've had some guys. I tell them like a good buddy of mine is the head coach at Columbus City School. Ryan Sayers, the head coach at Northland, and we'll talk about this stuff. And he's like, "So you're just letting your guy come downhill?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's ballsy." I'm like, sometimes you got to be ballsy. I feel like, and that's what we do. So, and it works for us. Like I said, we haven't been beat on a double move yet. That's the first concern. Well, what about that hitch and go? It's high school football. If we get a hitch and go, I tell my guy just tackle the receiver. If we get a 15-yard penalty, I'll take it.
He knows as I do, though. It's all relative to what your league is too. Like,
yeah,
I mean, as you mentioned, I've coached in your league. Like, it's a very like I don't care what formation they're in. It's a league that wants to run the football. That is like there's very few teams in that league in any given year that are going to throw for an obscene amount of yards. Like it's just
right.
And most of the quarterbacks in your league are also runners. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, we don't feel like there's not a lot of high school quarterbacks that are going to be able to throw the ball all the way out to the sideline. There's just not a lot of those out there. We can adjust if there is, but majority of the time there's not. And so we'll take care of the run with 8 and leave 3 guys over top of it. And that we feel like cover 3 does that for us. It's kind of built in to take care of the run game for us.